Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Ground Zero today. I'm joined by Sarah. She is a book author, a freelancer, and I've actually got one of her books. It's survival for survival skills for freelancers. Sorry, it's probably backwards on the screen, but hey. So do you want to start by telling us a bit about yourself, Sarah?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the invite.
No problem.
So I've been a freelance copywriter for it's 25 years in September this year, which is insane. I started my freelance business in the 90s. And what that means is that I help marketing managers and business owners use the right words to promote their products and services and to get more of the right clients. And yeah, I've also written two books, both of which have been Amazon bestsellers. This one, Survival Skills for Freelancers, it is busts the 8 myths of self-employment and shares 20 years of experience plus quotes from 100 other freelancers. And then this beauty is all about language. It's gorgeous, it's fun, and I've been told lots and lots of times that it's the book you didn't know you needed. So a lot of people have it and keep it on their desk. It's all the spellings and really memorable tips to remember the spellings between words that sound the same. So
Mm.
that's me.
One thing I have noticed is pretty much every guest in this podcast has been in the business like the same or longer than when I've been born.
Oh my God,
It is scary.
that
Like,
is insane.
because I was born in 2003.
Whoa, you're
I'm
younger than both my kids.
I'm 21 in July,
Wow.
and
Go you. You're an entrepreneur already. That's insane.
most people are. I've been in the business like 22 years. I'm like, I wasn't even born then.
Wow. Well, I started my freelance business when I was pregnant with my daughter because I didn't want to go back to work full time, and that was what kicked it off. But as you're going through, you're reading Survival Skills for Freelancers at the moment, aren't you, Ben? So
Yeah,
you'll kind of get into the story of how I found freelance life.
I've got to the bit where you've just ditched school and you're in the working world, and then you're just moving down out of, was it Surrey, I want to say?
No,
No, it's somewhere else.
working in Bristol and
Yeah, that was it.
yeah, yeah.
And you've just moved down. So we're getting into it. We're getting into it. But no. So do you want to describe your first experiences with the starting off at freelancing? Because obviously you've gone from the
Yeah.
working into freelance.
Yeah, it was overwhelming because I started off doing freelance editing and
Mm,
proofreading. I didn't call myself a copywriter. In all honesty, I was doing copywriting, but I didn't have the confidence to stand on my own 2 feet and say, I'm a freelance copywriter. It took me a
hmm
while to own what I was doing, really. Um, so when I first started out, I knew that I knew I was going to say I knew I was amazing at editing and proofreading, or going to blowing my own trumpet or anything.
Yeah.
I knew I had really good skills with those two disciplines, and I knew that I could really help a lot of businesses. What I didn't know was, oh my gosh, just how much peripheral stuff there is around running a business. So
hmm
doing your own accounts, doing the admin, finding the clients in the first place, liaising with the clients, having meetings, um, writing letters. It was letters back then. There was barely any email back then. There was certainly no social media and barely any internet. So I didn't have a website. I started out, I designed my own business cards and compliment slips. Remember them? Little bits of paper. No, you're not going to remember.
Briefly,
Little
briefly.
bits of paper that you'd write a little note and include something in an envelope and post it in snail mail. And yeah, I designed my own logo using Comic Sans, and it was hot pink, and it's still hot pink to this day. Actually, don't have a. Do I, in fact, have a business card to hand? No, probably not. I don't really use them anymore. Um, who does? But yeah, my website is still hot pink. I wanted to stand out, and I'd come from financial services, and a lot of the financial services branding was certainly back then. Can't think of a single company that wasn't blue. Like blue was trustworthy. Blue was Yeah, Blue was reputable.
Mm,
And I remember chatting to a friend of mine who was a graphic designer. He was the only other freelancer I knew at the time. And he said, "Are you sure you don't want your logo to be blue? Because I think it expresses trust." And I said, "Nope, I want hot pink." And I stood out, and then other companies started following suit. So, yeah, obviously a trailblazer. But it was overwhelming because
mm,
I'd gone from working in basically an agency. I was working as a account manager and an editor, producing customer magazines for big corporates and brands. And I had got used to all this buzz and chatter and banter in the office every day. We'd chat in the kitchen, we'd put the kettle on, make drinks for everybody, and it was having that sense of community. So going from that to being on my own in the house with only my cat for company, quite literally, I found I went stir crazy really quite quickly.
mhm,
Struggled with being on my own, feeling completely isolated, not just physically, geographically isolated, but I mean, not, I wasn't in the middle of a field or something. I was on a housing estate on the outskirts of Gloucester, but I mean, not actually physically seeing other people who I was working with or liaising with clients in person all that much. It made me feel very out of touch. There weren't, I needed that sense of having other people around me. So if I had an idea, client came to me and said, could you, this is a real life example. I sent out a lot of cold letters, not even emails back then, but a lot of cold inquiries to
mhm,
businesses I hadn't got any prior contact with, to see if they would like to hire my services. And a couple of them, I got very lucky. A couple of them very quickly picked up on it. And I started a couple of kind of long-term contracts almost working for them. One of them was the local council, and they used to produce this physical newspaper that went out to every house in the borough, and it would say, you know, we are investing in potholes, or we are improving the infrastructure within Cheltenham, whatever it was, but everything they put out there was written in such a formal way. So now
mm,
I'm all about human language and creating connection by remembering that your reader, whatever you're writing for your business, remembering your reader is another human being.
mhm.
You are writing, it's like me writing something directly to you, Ben. Like, I'm not addressing a group of people or a department or a team or a business. I'm addressing another human
Yep.
being. And I managed to get them to almost embrace a brand new tone of voice, which is not bad for 25 years ago. I don't even think tone of voice had been identified as a thing. Um, and yeah, it was isolating. It felt like working in a bubble.
Mm,
I didn't have peers or community or even just freelance friends who I could ask advice and that kind of thing. And yeah, it was isolating. So that's really why 20 years later I wrote Survival Skills for Freelancers. There were not many books out there back then that weren't written by middle-aged American guys who really did not feel as if I didn't feel were speaking to me as a 20-something-year-old woman, brand new mom, starting a business for the first time. Life was, it was wild because I didn't know anything about being a mom and I didn't know anything about running a business. So yeah, when I sat down 20 years later to write Survival Skills for Freelancers, I wanted to help other people who were in the same situation, who experience imposter syndrome and question what they do and think they're not good enough, or they don't know how much to charge for their services, or they feel isolated. They need to find their own community and surround themselves by support, and grow their network and kind of all the benefits that can come from that. So that's why I wrote that book, really, was to help other versions of me 20 years later.
mm. And I can see it's going like a lot back and forth because obviously you started, I believe you said 25 years ago, and obviously I believe you're still freelancing to this day.
Yeah.
So obviously a difference is crazy because obviously back
Be-
then you said you had business cards.
Yeah.
Well, now you've got like this contactless business card where you just tap your phone, it brings up a link tree.
Yeah.
So the difference in that is crazy. But
Yeah.
from starting, I think many people, when they decide what they want to do, so for example, I'm looking into like the freelance marketing sort of stuff because that's my little. I mean, I'm now past my apprenticeships. I'm a qualified digital marketer now, so it's
Oh,
like that's like my sort of field.
that's
It's
epic.
copywriting. I can write posts, but you will not catch me writing massive blogs in high detail that you would. I wouldn't claim to be a copywriter against you, definitely not. You'd see the difference, but obviously from getting started, everyone knows roughly what niche they want to go into, roughly what they're doing, whether it's copywriting, content creation, digital marketing, or mix of all three. Who knows? But the biggest thing I think people struggle with is getting the clients. How
Mm.
did you find that back then compared to maybe nowadays?
It's very different. I just last week, this time last week actually, was delivering a webinar to a bunch of translators based in the Netherlands
Mm.
about marketing their freelance business. I do it as a webinar. Um, and and I was saying just how difficult it was because back then in the late 90s, the only options you really had to find clients were to, I mean, you could physically cold call. You could literally go around and knock on people's doors and ask if they wanted, if they had a marketing team or a person that you could speak to. But it was really a question of kind of do a direct mail shot, and print was expensive even back then. Um, do take out an ad in the local physical newspaper or in the yellow pages, which you're not going to remember, Ben, but
I was
like
going to say
a
the yellow pages.
doorstep, a
No,
doorstep of a publication with people's numbers in and
no, I
trades and
remember Yellow Pages.
you
That's a
did.
massive, thick book where it just had all the
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah, yeah.
But even then, like, because I remember back then, that's what like companies would put themselves in Yellow Page. Go, that's my marketing done.
Yeah,
I've got a
exactly. And
little
they would
section
do
in
that as
thousands of companies, which probably won't get seen by many unless you're looking for a specific thing.
and then you find all the businesses are called A1,
Yeah,
A1 copywriting, A1 editing, so that they stand out because they're first on the list.
yeah.
But now, it's all about getting recommendation, getting your name out there, doing the whole personal brand thing. What do you stand for? Showing up on social media. There was no social media, so I think it's there are pros and cons, put it this way. So obviously anything you put out on social media is a way of advertising your business, raising awareness of who you are, what you
Hmm.
stand for, who you do, what you do and who you do it for, and the problems that you solve for your audience. So particularly if you are somebody who wants to work with words, if you want to be a copywriter or a social media manager or whatever, everything you put out there onto social media or blog posts or on your website or whatever, that is effectively advertising your skills without you
Hmm.
saying, I can write your website for you. It's actually showcasing your writing skills. It's showcasing the things that make you stand out and that make you different, and that perhaps are the reasons why somebody would choose to work with you over working with anybody else. And I think it's worth mentioning that we often think, oh, yeah, but I'm not the most experienced copywriter, or I'm not the most qualified direct marketer, but it doesn't always come down to that. That
No.
often the qualifications and the experience are often a really big bolster to your own confidence, and they often make you feel you can go out there into the world and say, look, this is me, this is who I am. And perhaps if you didn't have those qualifications or skills, you wouldn't feel so confident doing that. But at the end of the day, the reasons people choose to work with you is often more that you have something really random in common, um, or you've met them in person and you clicked with them and they know that you're going to be reliable and on time and all the important business things, but also you're going to be fun to work with. Because as long as you're going to make the
Mm.
process enjoyable, that's going to make their working life so much easier and so much more fun. So I think I went off at a tangent there, didn't I? Bring me
No,
back.
no, because freelancing, it's so wide and open because the amount of conversation we go into, because obviously you've got the online freelancing where all the meetings are online, then you've got the more local freelancing where everything's in person meet.
Mm.
And it doesn't even end there. Like you've got whether you want to cold call, cold email, whether you want to go down the more relational route. Because I was talking to Westro the other day because we met up and talked about it a bit, and he was saying more about comment like on their post, build that relation, then send the messages out
Yeah.
so that you could talk for hours. But I'd say link to maybe the getting the clients, because most companies they look at your what you call portfolio sort of thing. I don't,
Yeah.
I
Sorry, I'm saying yeah, but I'm shaking my head. There's a reason for that.
I was gonna say like what?
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've got an opinion about your portfolio as such. I've never had a portfolio and I've been freelance for 25 years. And obviously there's highs and lows in every freelance career. It's worth
mm,
saying that. So peaks and troughs, they're just inevitable. I have a tip, which if you remind me, I will share in a minute when I've tried to complete this one thought that's trying to come out of my
no
brain right
worries.
now. Um, what was I saying? Oh, the portfolio thing.
Yeah.
So for me, if a client comes to me and they want to work with me, they've usually done their research.
Hmm.
I'll have examples of, for example, for websites that I've written that I can say, look, here are half a dozen websites I've written. But usually because they have been following me on social media, they've read some of the evergreen blog posts that I have on my website, and there are lots of them. I've got 200 or something web pages out there, which are kind of adding value in terms of writing for business or freelance life. So they know how I write. So I've never felt the need to have a portfolio.
Hmm.
Perhaps when you're newer to the game and you are building your career, and perhaps if you're going into more the visual design skills, social media marketing, I really don't know how that sits now. And I don't know how people put together digital portfolios, but I don't think it is always essential. I think it's worth mentioning that it's not essential. Can I return very quickly while I
Yeah.
think a bit to that tip about
I was about to remind you
smoothing out
quickly
the peaks and troughs?
before I step in a little bit.
Yeah, so one thing that I think is super useful because of the inevitability of those peaks and troughs, it's very easy as a freelancer, particularly as a creative freelancer, for your self-esteem to be very closely tied into your output.
Hmm.
So when I write, I put my heart and soul into every job I do. And the moment I just sent 3 new web pages to a brand new client this afternoon, and I'm nervous as heck. Because the moment, yes, I've been doing it for 25 years, but the moment I stop feeling nervous about doing that is the moment I stop caring, and then I'm finished. Because I've got to have that sense of attachment to every job I do. So it's really easy to put your heart and soul into everything you do. And then, if you go quiet, you're like, ooh, where's my value? So what I would always recommend is keep a list. I don't know whether you do Trello boards or a physical list or a notebook or something like this of proactive, productive and positive marketing tasks or admin tasks or business development tasks that you
Hmm.
can do for your freelance business, that the minute you go quiet, provided you're ticking over with your marketing, like there's never a time to stop your marketing. However busy you get, you should always schedule in like appointments with yourself to spend some time building your social media profile, your personal brand, awareness of your business. But have this list of positive things that you can do when it does go quiet.
Hmm.
And what it does is it shifts your mental energy and your focus to something that's positive. And instead of focusing on, oh my gosh, I have no work, so you're not focusing on the lack, because I don't know if you're kind of familiar with the whole, like, you get more of what you focus on. What is it? energy flows where attention goes, something like that. I think it's Tony Robbins said that. If you focus on the lack of work, you'll
Mhm.
just get more of that lack. It self-perpetuates. But if you focus on something that is really benefiting your business, it's raising awareness, it's sharing, spreading the word about who you are and what you do. As soon as you start focusing on that and you put your energy into that, you'll notice that the inquiries will just start flooding back in. I don't know how that works, but over 25 years, it's worked time and time again. It really is a positive way of looking at the gaps. It's like taking the fear out of the freelance famine, as it were.
Yeah, I've got my little to-do list on a massive whiteboard just above me.
Nice,
So,
nice.
but I want to swivel back to the portfolio a second because
Yes,
I
please.
I personally agree, but also disagree slightly with you on that one because I think it does depend on the industry. Like with copywriting, you
Agree.
can get away with no portfolio because what you post online is sort of your copywriting style.
Yeah,
Whereas with marketing, it's very results driven.
yeah,
So if you're not if you have no results to show,
yeah.
no one's really going to go with you if they're just going off what you post, for
So
example.
what are you doing? Are you creating case studies or like how are you
So
getting that?
I haven't started it yet. So it I think as a marketing freelance, if you want to go into freelance, it's quite hard because
Mm,
it's very results based.
yeah.
You can build relationship. End of the day, they're paying you to get results.
You need to
So
track people, don't you?
yeah, so to start with, you got to do like I don't know, like bundles like 3 free ads or a little week free, like basically give away like a free thing to provide the results in return for the portfolio work.
Okay.
Um,
Like that. That's yeah, that's showing initiative.
yeah, it sucks because you got to do work for free, but it's building
There's
it
a
up.
whole chapter on doing work for free and survival skills for freelancers, which you will come to.
Yeah,
We
I'll
may
get there
not
soon.
agree 100% on that one, but I guess also if you're doing work for your portfolio and it's giving them exposure and you experience, then
Mm,
what you could also do is ask them to leave you a LinkedIn review, a recommendation. So you could start because
yeah,
word of mouth recommendation, those ways of the sort of the social proof of working with you and
yeah,
why people enjoy working with you and what you've done for them, the kind of outcomes of working as a team together. The more you can focus on getting that proof,
yeah.
yeah, the better it is.
I
I
mean, I
wrote a
get,
blog post about that actually, about why five-star reviews are the best free
yeah.
marketing tool your business has.
I mean, personally, I might not even have to do the free stuff now that I think about it, actually, because I can go off of my own LinkedIn growth and then this ground zero growth and other stuff that I do that I grow.
Yeah.
So I could go off that a little bit, but I mean,
I'm impressed
if
though.
someone's going in with nothing, then they would have to
Yeah.
do a
You
bit
have
of
to have something to show for it. Yeah, nobody's
yeah,
going to take a punt on somebody they don't. But ultimately, I get hundreds of cold inquiries every week saying, "Oh, I do this. Like, I'd love to work with you." And I kind of think, why would anybody in their right mind work with someone they know nothing about? So it is all about that relationship
yeah,
first process. So yeah, it can feel a bit tedious to have to build relationships on LinkedIn or whatever it is. But one thing I'm a really big fan of, and LinkedIn specifically, is voice notes.
hmm.
Um, I'm a bit of a talker, as you can tell. I'm not as concise with my words when I'm talking as I am when I'm
I
writing.
mean, your first message was
Important
a voice
caveat.
note to me.
Oh, was it?
I'm
Was it?
I'm
That doesn't
90% sure,
surprise
yeah,
me. That doesn't surprise me. But the number of people who say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you could leave voice notes on LinkedIn." It's just something a little bit more personal than
yeah,
a hi, I'm new to your profile, which could be copied and pasted, couldn't it? It
yeah.
it
I mean,
has to be personalized if it's a voice note.
I think it's John Esperin. He touched on it. He's like a LinkedIn like guru guy that does like
He is. I'm in
you
his community.
and he says that voice notes are a way to stand out to everyone because you can't copy and paste it and it shows that you're the person who you say you are.
He goes one step further and recommends personalized videos. I haven't
Yeah.
tried.
No, when I talk to him, it's voice notes, so it might have updated to just videos now.
Yeah, I went to his conference at Uplift Live in March.
Birmingham.
Yeah, the video idea was one of the things he suggested.
Yeah, I didn't
I
manage
thought
to
that
go
was
to that one.
inspiring. Yeah, it feels a little bit creepy, I think, but yeah,
Nah,
don't know.
voice notes will do for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
same.
But while we're on this like relational sort of topic, before we go into all the admin stuff and all the boring stuff, uh, on the self promotion and promoting yourself, how do you go about that? Because obviously you can promote on your personal brand, but surely if you're in freelance, would you have like your own separate like I don't know like freelance business page, or do you link it with your personal?
In terms of what? Social media?
Yeah, because obviously you can promote on LinkedIn, Instagram.
Yeah, I am a very firm believer. I remember when Twitter, I think I started on Twitter in something like 2012 or something ridiculous. I was really an early adopter, and I remember everybody was very much in favor of having a personal profile and a professional profile, whereas
Mm,
I 100% embrace the fact that anybody working with me is going to have to get to know me as an individual. So for me, work and personal, it's all the same me. I'm not putting on a front. I did it for years. I basically masked who I was and tried to be the very definition, the epitome of professional, like dress. Like when I was working in the corporate world and financial services, I was probably the age you are now, and I felt I had to speak a certain way, dress a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way, and I didn't really feel as if I could be myself in business until really relatively recently. But I have noticed in the past, however many years since I started, it's sort of just really embracing being myself.
mhm,
I've made much better connections because I am quirky. I do have neurodiversity, and I find that some of the quirks, like some of my more niche interests, like I'm massively into bird watching, for example, quite enjoy doing a jigsaw. I'm part of a choir. And when I started putting those things out into the world, those things that make me stand out as a copywriter because of the person I am, the interests I have, and all the things that contribute to making you a well-rounded individual. I have got a off the back of this, I have got a client who organized, like arranged the music for the king's coronation. He set up the gospel choir that won Songs of Praise Gospel Choir of the Year. He's a really high profile choir leader. And I got him as a client through putting those quirky, like individual things out there. And then I've also started working with the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust, which is a huge thing for me. Slimbridge is my happy place. That's the nature reserve down the road from
mhm.
me. And I'm working with those guys now as well because of embracing who I am, what I'm passionate about, and the things that make me different. So, no, I don't really have a freelance page and a personal page. It's all one and the same.
Okay, and you said how important freelance, not freelance, how important marketing is and stuff. So you mentioned that you sort of handpick your clients nowadays. Is that all through social media, or is that through?
I would say I get 80% of my leads through word of mouth. So
Mhm,
for me, every time I have a process now. So when I finish a job, I'll ask the client to recommend me on either LinkedIn or Google. I send them the links to make it as easy as possible. I tell them that it would really mean a lot to have their endorsement. And in most cases, people are just really happy to do something to help because they're at that stage where they're like absolutely head over heels with a new web copy.
mhm,
And it's a good time to ask. So when I get testimonials, I try to remember to make them into like a Canva graphic or something that I can share on my social media. So all that social proof is really helpful.
mhm.
When I have a little bit more time, I'll write testimonials into a case study so
Yep.
that I have, if I get an inquiry from a similar sort of client or a client that's perhaps in a different sector, but they want a similar form of support or work, I can send them the case study as an example, and that social proof is really helpful to kind of reinforce my credibility and
Mm.
capability and experience. But the other thing is, like, I don't ever, or very rarely, maybe I sometimes do, but I don't ever intentionally go out there and go, "Oh, I'm a copywriter, I can write your website." It's more about show, don't tell, which is a huge
Mm,
thing in copywriting. It's not about telling people what you can do for them. It's more showing them how it works, showing them what the process is, showing them how it feels and what the outcomes can be, and
yeah.
how successfully they can benefit as a result of working with me. But I have had people who, it's really important to mention this, when you're doing stuff on social media and you're not necessarily feeling like it's landing, you're
Mm,
not necessarily getting the engagement. Sometimes you feel it falls a bit flat. Engagement is way down on certain platforms, Instagram at the moment, to be specific, as to one of them. But just because people aren't responding, it doesn't mean they're not seeing your content. And I picked up a client through Twitter who had followed me for 4 years. He'd never once even so much as liked a post. He'd never retweeted, he'd never commented, but he came to me and said, "I've been following you on Twitter for 4 years. I want to work with you." So it's remembering that everything you put out there reflects your personal brand,
mm,
and reflects who you are as an individual. And yeah, it's showing up, and I'm not very good at doing the consistency thing on social media. People say that consistency is the most important factor, but I won't do social media when I'm not feeling the energy for it. I'm very much energy driven.
mhm,
And I mean, kind of, oh, it sounds really woo, but like, um not just not just having the drive, but if I'm feeling the energy is behind something, sometimes I'll do 3 LinkedIn posts in a week, and then the next week I won't do anything in terms of my own posts. I'll always be commenting on other people's posts, but I won't necessarily post for myself, because I think one thing's really worth remembering with social media is you shouldn't try to be all things to all people. Like, you once you've spent some time really identifying who your niche client is, and you can tap into addressing them and going back to that, having a one-to-one conversation with that niche client,
mm,
your marketing message should be doing as effective a job of repelling the wrong audience as it is attracting the right one. So whatever you're putting out there is, I've forgotten where I was going with that. I knew this would happen. It always happens. It's because my brain is so full of things that I want to share with you. I'm like, don't forget that idea. And then of course I forget it.
no, it's like no,
Almost got there. It'll come back to
but I
me.
like how you tapped into the social proof and word of mouth because you started going in about testimony. That's what I was on about my portfolio, which I think that might have been a miscommunication, getting
Right,
like the testimonials that people. That's sort of what I mean by portfolio, because obviously
right.
the clients that you work with will obviously give you like a review at the end,
Yeah.
or and then you can like add screen. That's sort of like the portfolio thing which I was on about.
Got you. So,
So
so Ben, just to give you context, in the old days when I was still working at an agency, a portfolio was a humongous, like, I'm having to go right back to show the scale of it, like a humongous, like a little flat, thin suitcase with a zip, with a handle. I've still got one somewhere from those years ago, from
mm,
all the magazines that I was working on when I was at Specialist, with like 26, like, photos of 26-year-old me as editor of the GM Cards
yeah.
magazine, all these things. And it's great for nostalgia. But that's what I was picturing, something like a digital equivalent of that.
Yeah, so portfolio nowadays is like you might have like a separate page where you have like all the testimonial like reviews and the screenshots to prove it and stuff.
Nice. Yeah, like, yeah, little mini case studies and that kind
Yeah. So that probably was a bit of a miscommute, but no. And you went on about Google reviews as well.
yes.
So for the viewers' sake, obviously you've got the Google, in which for if anyone wants to do the Google, how do you set that up for people? And also
Yeah.
you've got nowadays you've got the Google versus Trustpilot. I
Okay.
don't know if you've heard that battle, because with Google reviews you can edit them, whereas Trustpilot, what you get is what stays.
How can you edit Google reviews?
I can't. I haven't
Is that
looked in.
100% correct?
I'm not entirely. I've read it up,
So
so
I've had
I might be
people,
incorrect, but I've read it up. Apparently, you can. I
I've
don't
noticed,
I don't know if
I'm
I
not,
don't know if you can, but I think people can. So it's a case of someone can leave a 1-star review. You can then message them saying, "I'll give you a full refund. You can keep the product if you up it to a 5-star and give a good review."
right, okay.
I mean,
I
that might
think
be
if that
incorrect. I've
was
read
the
it somewhere like
case,
ages ago.
yeah, I think if that was the case, there wouldn't be businesses out there with 1-star reviews. I was looking for a tree surgeon the other day, and this guy had entirely 5-star reviews and 1-star reviews. And I'm assuming the 1-star reviews was something to do with like a disgruntled
Yeah,
ex-employee. But if you could edit them, I'm pretty sure he would have got them taken down or something like that. But yeah,
yeah. I mean,
Trustpilot, great.
it might be a case of it was a while ago, but now they've updated it where you can't.
Maybe,
I don't know.
yeah,
I haven't
maybe,
looked into it recently, but this
yeah.
like a year or two ago now.
Yeah, I like Google. I think, you know, when people are Googling your business, that is going to be the first thing they come across
Yeah,
rather than LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great. LinkedIn, just in general, being active on LinkedIn is great for search. So if somebody's searching the name of your business, LinkedIn will quite often come up as the second item underneath your own website.
yeah,
So I always say if you are working on one thing to raise awareness and raise your profile online and boost that kind of the credibility, the social proof, all this kind of thing, is really work on investing in your website. Um, because it is your shop window to the
yeah,
world. It is online working for you 24/7. If it's well written and the user experience and the actual flow of somebody
yeah,
landing on it and having to take action, if that's effective, then it can literally sell for you while you sleep. So it is your best marketing tool. It is
yeah.
really worth investing in your website. So
No,
that's what I
I've just
always say
gone
to
down that
people.
route. I don't know if you've seen it, it's just come out the website.
No, I actually haven't. Is that for the
No,
podcast or for your business?
no, it's for a personal brand, so it's Ben Frank. This is why
Right.
I'm running a rat's tail race with trying to get online
Right.
because with Google search, my name's Ben Franklin.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
going to be quite hard to top that search because of
You don't
the
have a middle name you can leverage? Oh, I hate that word. Where did that come from? Like
um
Ben J. Franklin.
yeah, I mean I can do. Um yeah, there's different ways to look into it. I just wanted to get it at least out there for now and then
Yeah.
sort of think of ways later on. But
A middle initial would really help. And it kind of sounds quite cool. But you could kind of also tack like Ben Franklin marketing. Like, so that's kind of the search.
yeah,
term.
but no,
Um, yeah.
because I actually did like an idea that you have on your website, which I did borrow. It's that podcast you've appeared on. I
Yes.
love that. So that's now a
That
page on
is
there.
so that's been such a positive page, because if somebody comes to me and they want a load of advice on freelancing and they're thinking of buying survival skills for freelancers, I mean, to start with, there are like 455-star reviews on Amazon that say just buy it. It's going to save you so much time, so much effort, and making so many
Mm,
mistakes that I made, you know, learn from my mistakes. But it's a great way of people getting some of my tips and advice and expertise
mm,
directly into their ears. But it's also really nice to have that in one place, because I'm not great at going, oh, hey, I've achieved something. I'm always like, okay, what's next?
yeah,
I don't really do well at kind of congratulating myself when I finish something. Even when the Little Book of Confusables came out, it got to #1 in 8 categories on Amazon. I was really chuffed with that. I'm chuffed with the fact that that's won 3 awards, one of them gold. I'm chuffed with the fact that Survival Skills to Freelancers has sold in 28 countries. But aside from those things, I'm always like, right, next. Like, what's
yeah.
the next thing that I'm gonna go for? So, what were we saying?
It was on about the podcast page and the ones that you've
Yeah, the
appeared on.
podcast page. It's just nice to be able to go, okay, I'm up to like 70. That feels like a really big achievement. But also
Mm,
for people like you who are considering having me on as a guest, it's quite a compelling thing to say, look, your podcast gets a permanent link on my website. It's like a backlink. It's great.
yeah. But no, I love that because it's also like a thanks for having me on sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
and then it's also because people have come to your website for you, they can then know where to go to find more of what you're up to as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like a double whammy. Like, so it's not a huge page. So I've only been on 3, but it's like 2 Are the Medias and Trisha Lewis one.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
but it was interesting you was going on earlier about the imposter syndrome because that's what me and Trisha talked about back and forth. Because
Right.
obviously she's into that sort of area of. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of what I'm
Unsquashing.
trying to think of what.
Unsquash yourself.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the niche, and it's like mindset and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, so when I went on it, it was all
Mm.
about being a young person and overcoming like confidence issues and
Love
literally
that.
what you're talking about earlier. Like, I'm not really qualified. I'm
Mm.
young. Should I just sit back in a corner or go? As you could probably tell, I'm more of a get me in there sort of.
Yeah, I love that. Love your energy.
But yeah, no, I think that's just me. I've learned to grow up with it because at school, because I talked this on Trisha at school, I was quite in the corner, and now I'm older. I look back at it, I'm like, that's actually it's not even like, oh, that didn't really benefit me. It's just that was actually just quite boring, if that makes sense. So the more you go out, the more interesting stuff gets.
More you've got to talk about.
I think the more you sit in, like, oh, finish school, okay, 9 to 5, work there till you're 65. You're just sort of trapped in like a narrow road where you just like,
Mm.
well, now I'm bored, and there's no what's next. Where when you
Yeah.
do like a podcast on the side, you want to start freelance, you want to try other bits. Yes, your time gets more crammed, but it's like
Yeah.
later on down the line, that could shoot, that could shoot, that could possibly shoot,
Mm.
and then your whole sort of what you do is just expanded to the point where it's like I could really just like where you are now, I can pick and choose.
Mm.
So
Exactly. And that's the dream, isn't it? We all want that freedom and the flexibility to choose
mhm,
who we work for, what we do, what projects we take on. Like, I'm only going to take on now projects that really excite me.
mhm,
So yeah, I am super fortunate to be able to pick and choose. Like, it's difficult to get to that stage, but I've put in the hard graft, and
yeah,
now I can afford to be a bit more selective. But it's a virtuous circle, because I know when I'm doing the work that fires me up the best, that's when the clients are just overwhelmed with what I've done, in the like, oh my God, you just got it. This is exactly what we needed. Then that boosts my self-esteem and my confidence, and then that gives me more confidence to do more of the
mhm,
same. But then those happy clients are more likely to write me a review on Google or LinkedIn. They're also more likely to recommend me to their peers and
mhm,
their colleagues, who are, because they're kind of lovely people and they're nice people to work with, and they treat me as an equal and as a partner rather than a lowly sort of supplier. I want to work with more of those kinds of people, and they tend
mhm,
to know those kinds of people, because like attracts like. So it's a real positive circle to get into.
mhm. And while we're on this topic, actually, I briefly read the contents of the book, so I'm not sure if this is a myth in your book, but with marketing, not marketing, the freelance, that's it. See, I'm like you. Sometimes I just think ahead and I lose train of thought. With freelancing, um, some people are like, "Oh, you work for yourself. You can work any time of the day that you want. You can go where you want." Is that the case, or at the start, is it a bit more, you got to put in more effort? Because obviously, you go online, it's like going to freelance or work for yourself, and you can go where you want, work when you want, do
Yeah.
what you want. And I
Hustle
fit.
bros have got a lot to answer for. I'm not into that at all. I'm not into the hustle, like, um g- uh, like the subtitle of Survival Skills for
Mm,
Freelancers is tried and tested tips to help you ace self-employment without burnout. And the reason that I had that mental health focus is because I had struggled with my own mental
mhm,
health through being freelance, for as long as I've as long as I've done it, really. And it took me a really long time to get good at a lot of the things, such as setting boundaries, ensuring that I had a work-life balance. Like, I
yeah,
felt like I was always on, like I was always at the beck and call of my clients. And what happens with that is that creates a massive feeling of stress, which leads to overwhelm, which can all too easily lead to burnout. So when Survival Skills for Freelancers first came out, it was actually in lockdown.
Hmm.
It was in the June of the March that we had the first lockdown. And it was at this point where everybody all of a sudden had to work from home, and people were like, oh my God, how do I deal with distractions? And how do I stay motivated? And how do I deal with focus? And the first section of the book is, before I get into the 8 myths, the first section of the book is actually focused on working from home and being productive. So
Hmm.
that was fortunate, but yeah, again, I've forgotten where we were going.
Yeah, no, I think it's a bit of miscommunication on mine. When I say about the you can work it,
Oh,
it's not so
working.
much the workload, it's you can pick what part of the day
Yes.
you can work, you can pick
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you want to work.
yeah,
But
yeah,
sometimes it might not be the case where it's like actually you got to work a bit longer hours, you got to stay seated, and then
yeah.
once you're established, then you can sort of go into that.
Yeah, so I would say, like, however long you've been going, you have that flexibility to work from wherever. So as long as there's Wi-Fi and you have a laptop, you can
Yeah.
work from wherever you like. Noise cancelling headphones, strongly recommended. I've got noise cancelling AirPods and they're absolutely brilliant. Rather than working in my home, this is my lovely office. It really is genuinely lovely, but I'm in my home on my own again with just the cat for company, like throwback to 25 years ago. And because of that, I choose to go and work in the lounge bar at my gym. So that is my chosen co-working space, if you like. So you guys have got the Foundry down in Poole, which is
Yeah.
lovely for you. If I was closer, that would be where I would choose to work. In terms of the hours that you work, yeah, you can. Sure, as long as you get the work done, you could start work at 11 and finish at 7. You don't have to do a
Hmm.
9 to 5. That is one of the reasons a lot of us go freelance, to get away from that
Yeah.
feeling that it's 9 to 5 grind. You might not be a morning person. You might find you're better off starting in the afternoon and working a late night, and perhaps,
Mm.
finish at midnight, whatever. It is about putting the graft in to begin with. Well,
Yeah.
you never stop really putting the graft in, but you get better at using your time and picking and choosing those times that work for you. I think the thing is, as long as your clients know that you will respond, they're not necessarily expecting you to respond within 5 minutes. Like a really good boundary thing that I use a lot and I talk about a lot is using your email out of office response 24/7, 365 days a year, not just when you're on holiday. So mine will tell my clients that I check my emails just a couple of times a day so that I can focus on copywriting, so
Yeah.
that when they're working with me, they know that they get the same level of focus, and they know I'm not being pulled off task by reading other people's emails every 5 minutes. They also have had that confirmation that I have received their email, and they've also had the confirmation that I'm going to reply, but just not immediately. So
Yeah.
it's almost like training your clients kind of what to expect. You might find certain clients are like, oh no, that's not immediate enough for me, but I can't do my job not if I'm not given the hands-off time that I've got to get my head down and literally get
Yeah.
lost in a document. I need that. So setting those boundaries is a really important thing in terms of working at the times that you like it, but it should be flexible. Like you will know, you might be somebody who thrives at like starting work at 6, finish at 1 or whatever, and then you like to go out on your bike or whatever
Hmm.
it is you like to do. You'll get to, as you kind of get to know yourself, you'll know. I mean, you probably know already when you're most productive. Capitalize on those times. That's the way to work effectively. Don't try and work during the times that you just know you're distracted or you're tired or your energy slumps.
Mm. See, yeah, no, with me, it's so weird because I'm the least morning person you could possibly imagine. But that's always when I get the most work done because I've just woken up, energy levels are at its highest. And then towards like you get the mid-afternoon slump, then the second breath of energy, and then the evening, okay, I just want to sit down and just do whatever, which is what I'm doing now. I'm just having a conversation in the evening and it's nice and easy.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, but yeah. And I think it's nice to do it at this point. You were mentioning earlier about you wanted to do a little competition.
Yeah, I think we could do a little bit of a giveaway. So
Yeah.
anybody who is watching this, I think we agreed that like anybody who's watching this has got the chance to win a signed copy of both my books, Survival Skills for Freelancers and The Little Book of Confusables. And I think then we said that if anybody wants the chance to enter, we'll do it like, what should we do? Closing date, end of the month, last day of the month, midnight, last day of the month.
Yep,
And if you comment books, we'll add your name into the prize draw and somebody's name will be picked at random. And as long as you're in the UK, I will send you a copy of both books.
I was about to mention, like you said, has to be in the UK.
Yeah,
Which is good you brought that up because I do see that a lot of people on my website and a few are like from US and around, so
right.
it's good to
Sorry to
clarify.
those people. It's £12.50 to send 2 books. I know I did this because I gave the people that I did the webinar for last week, I did an offer for them so they could get both books for £20. And I was charging £9.50 postage for Europe, and I took them to the post office and I got loads of packages of 2 books, and they were like £12.50. I'm like, no, that's my profit gone.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
shipping like Europe and stuff is just
not great.
because it's not
Just
even just
one
a
book.
distance, it's going through customs and
Yeah, it's pain.
but no. But no. Uh and just touching lastly, in terms of from the process of beginning, finding your clients towards the end of it, I think that's the brief overview. Is there anything that you want to add at all?
I'm sure there are things that I was like, oh, I must remember to say that I'll remember the minute we stop recording. But yeah, no, not
Or a
nothing.
nice little outro. If you want to find out more, get the book.
Exactly. It's recommended retail price is £14.95, but at the moment it's £12.95, and you can buy a copy of both my books from Amazon worldwide. Or if you would prefer to support my small business instead of a billionaire, just get in touch through social media or whatever, and I'll DM you a link to buy direct, and you can get a signed copy from me.
Perfect. Well, I don't think there's anything on mine to add on. I feel like we've been chatting on. It's probably been the longest episode, to be honest. I reckon
Really?
because
I thought I might have the honor of that. I do tend to ramble on a bit.
well, no, it's a broad topic. It's a good
It
topic that
is.
most people, whether they're in their early 20s like me or in their
Mm,
whatever age onwards, people want to get into it because
yeah.
although office jobs are good, it's the 9 to 5, so it's a set time in a set location. There's no really budge room.
Mm,
Whereas with going into working for yourself, you've got the bit more time freedom. You
yeah.
can go to different places. Like we were saying, the foundry earlier. In fact, aren't you up by London area? I'm pretty sure.
Gloucester.
Yeah, I think there's a foundry in London.
I'm nowhere near London.
Yeah, I don't know where Gloucester is on the map exactly off my head.
I'm like 2.5 hours from London.
Where is Gloucester? Is that?
Kind of central, like Cotswolds,
Oh, okay,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
between Birmingham and Bristol.
Yeah, no
Well,
one.
right
No,
there.
I don't think there's a foundry there at all.
I don't think there is either.
There'll probably be something like the foundry, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, there are plenty of co-working spaces around, but I'm lucky enough to be a member at David Lloyd Gym, which means that I go there and that is my working pattern. I get there at 8 o'clock, work for a couple of hours, do a class, and then doing a class kind of reinvigorates my energy, my focus, my
Mhm.
productivity, and then work for the rest of the day, and then come home around 2 o'clock and do my calls in the afternoon.
So
And
that's
that's about designing your day
yeah.
around what works for you.
So that's funny because there's a David Lloyd's in Paul, and I always walk past. I'm like, yeah, you've got money if you go there.
Mark Masters.
Yeah,
You
because
told me you just joined.
I'm pretty sure it's just so expensive to go there. I'm
But if
there.
you think of it, if you compare it to a co-working space, I'm co-working there every day. If I was working at a co-working space, I'd be paying 25, 30 pound a day to work
Well,
there,
yeah,
would I not? So
not too sure.
it's a
Uh,
no-brainer for me.
but yeah, no, there's nothing on my end to add. You can obviously get the giveaway and hope that you win it, or contact Sarah directly on LinkedIn or through the website. I'm sure the email's there.
Mm.
But no,
I'd love
after
if you've been watching this, like, do connect with me on social media. I'd love to hear what you took away from the podcast. So if anybody wants to connect with me on
Mhm.
LinkedIn or whatever, just yeah, I'd love to get a personalized note just saying that you found me through Ben's show and that just one tip that you found helpful that you're going to put into practice?
That's what I was going to go into. Obviously, after this, if you send me all of what you want, that'll be in the description so
Oh,
people
yeah, the
can
link.
find you.
Yeah, of course.
In the newsletter that goes out to all the email subscribers, you have like a own little section which you can write up, and I don't say as a topic you can write about because it's like Mark Masters' newsletter. It's like your section to do what you want with it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, you can put your book links in there, whatever, so people can find who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was lovely talking to you, Sarah.
Yeah, you too,
I'm
Ben.
I'm
Absolute
sure people will
pleasure.
love this episode. It's a very long one, I reckon. I actually think we might be touching nearly the hour mark.
I
So
should go and eat something.
no. Well, as I was talking to you, thanks
Great.
for listening, guys. Obviously, go tell Sarah that you come from me if you have, or if you know her, still say hi, I guess. Go say, hi, I saw you on Ben's podcast.
Yeah. Say
But
hi.
no.
I'd love
Anyway,
that.
it's lovely speaking to you guys. I'll catch you next one. Bye bye for now.
Bye.